Hi, everybody. It's Jessica Bean with the North Shore Reading Council. I hope you're all well. So I'm presenting our professional development in a on-demand distance learning style to meet the day and age. So I know that we are gearing up for our very last week of optional distance learning. And if some of you are like me, I am already kind of anxious about like what is the next school year going to look like? Are we going to have distance learning? Are we going to have in-person learning? Are we going to have some kind of combination of both? And I mean, I'd love to be optimistic and think that the school year is going to be completely normal, but looking at, some of the schools opening up in Europe and across the world, it just doesn't look like that's how it's going to be. And if we look at TNG, how they are, right now currently kind of surveying parents and seeing what they want for their students. Do they want their students to go to class 1-to-1? Do they want a distance learning, or do they want like kind of blended models for their student? So I think that it's important for us to begin our planning process with both outcomes in mind. And so I know that with this distance learning, I've had some challenges keeping my kids motivated. I know a lot of it is because it's optional. But I think also we have to think about like, what do students like in the digital world? And so we got to kind of meet them where they're at. And that kind of led me to this Facebook group that I follow that's a whole bunch of teachers using Bitmojis as a means to engage their students. And I think that it's relevant because Snapchat is still a part of their world, and Bitmoji is connected to Snapchat. And now Facebook entered in the avatar world a couple of days ago. And so I think that that will also help fuel the Bitmoji slash avatar world. And so when you blend that with this idea of literacy, then how do we engage students to continue reading while they're at home? And so I'm going to show you today in this tutorial how to create a Bitmoji library to engage student literacy. So let's start off with some of the why. Okay, so Susan Newman from University of Michigan said that access to books and educational materials is the single largest barrier to literacy development in the US. Now, Susan Newman had no idea when she said that we would have a global pandemic that's going to exacerbate that whole barrier, because now students no longer had access to the school library while they were at home. They had no access to a public library while they were at home. And so then they were completely reliant upon the libraries that they had at their house. And so if we think about that then, and we think about like, okay, well, why is it important then? Book ownership, or I would even just say access to books, has a large impact on the future of our young people. We know that having access to quality educational materials or books at home increases the reading level of students. We know that it increases their potential to go to post-secondary institutions when they're older. And so we want to try and fuel literacy at home as best we can. But we have some challenges if we know the facts. We know through some levels of research that middle income neighborhoods, like if you kind of just like cluster families together, they tend to have about 13 books per student available to these middle income neighborhood families. Whereas your low income neighborhoods, when clustered together, tend to only have one book per 300 children, which is an astounding statistic. So, how do we fight that? Especially when we have situations like a global pandemic? Well, we got to be creative. And we know that almost every home has some access to a cell phone, and smartphones are so pervasive in today's society, that I think that that's where we have to give them access. And so a lot of it though tends to be is that, some of these parents just don't know like how to find and select quality materials for the students. So that's where we come into play. So let's get down to it. Let's start by creating our Bitmoji library. And this is going to be about 5 steps. And some of those steps are faster than others. And so I'm going to kind of walk you through that. And I will also provide you with a pathfinder for those of you that kind of need the directions and the written directions versus the verbal directions. Okay. Step 1, create a Bitmoji. I can't unfortunately show you this step on our tutorial, but you have to do this on your iPhone or your Android device. So you're going to download the Bitmoji app, and then you're going to customize your Bitmoji to look however you want it to look. It's a pretty easy, intuitive. Like, I don't think anybody really needs help to create their Bitmoji. And you can probably use the Facebook avatar as well. However, it's just not as intuitive, and there's not like plugins that you can use to integrate them into your Google Slides yet. So you'll go on, you get the App Store, you create your Bitmoji. The second step to get us ready is to download the Bitmoji Chrome extension. So first and foremost, if you're not working in Google Chrome on your computer, that's where you need to be working. One, it's because that's where the Bitmoji Chrome extension is. And two, we're going to be working in Google Slides, and anything Google works best with Google products. So I'm going to walk you through downloading the Bitmoji Chrome extension. So you go into a browser and you look for Google Chrome Web Store. And then you just type in Bitmoji, and it's the very first one that comes up. That's what the app looks like as well. And so obviously I already have it downloaded. So you would, instead of rate it, you'd see add to Chrome. You're going to add to Chrome. You'll walk through whatever steps. And then you can see right here, once you got the Bitmoji extension, these are your extensions right here. And it'll be this little icon right here that will allow you to integrate your Bitmoji into your Google Slides. Okay? Easy. All right. So the next step is then to create your classroom. And this one is kind of like the longest step, depending on you and what you want to do. A lot of people really have, in the Facebook groups that I follow, they've been having a lot of fun with this. And then some have even thought about like, okay, well, how can I let my students also create Bitmojis and use them to complete assignments as well? So there's a lot of different applications. So creating your classroom. So just first to start off with, to kind of show you, this is what I'm talking about when creating a classroom. And then, of course, since our ultimate aim is to create a library, of course, I have some bookshelves right here. So there's two kind of different thought processes. You can have a Bitmoji classroom that looks more cartoonish. Since the Bitmoji is cartoonish, you can make it more realistic, like this other classroom that I created. Now, this one up here took me maybe like 5 minutes to create. And this one took me a lot longer to create, especially because this one's operating on different planes. So you can see. So when you have a background that is kind of more more planes to operate on, it makes it a little bit more difficult to go in then and like place your items. So whereas this one is just like this flat plane and it wasn't that challenging to go in and create. So you can see that in this one I have like a little whiteboard, a bookshelf, a lamp, I have a couch and some artwork on the wall. Whereas in this one, I have kind of like my little chair and table. I have some decoration that, computer, I have a cactus, a fishbowl. So it's totally up to you how much time you want to spend. But I've seen some really cool things also where you, like, if your theme is the jungle, then you can have your Bitmoji in the jungle and you can have a bookshelf in the jungle. To have your library there. So there's just unlimited kind of like possibilities for your classroom. So let's get into the how-to part. So first off, you're going to add a new slide. Now, you can add the blank slide right there like I did. And then you don't have to worry about deleting anything. But if you don't use the blank slide and you get some with the words on it, then you just need to hit Control A to select everything and then delete any of the word text boxes off your screen because you want a blank slate. So there's kind of two methodologies for adding things into your classroom. I'm always going to start with the easiest first, and then I'll show you some of the more challenging ways that you can customize and have more options. So the first step in creating our classroom is we need our classroom background. I'm going to select background, and then I'm going to select choose image. And I'm going to go into Google image search. And I'm going to search wall and floor background. And then you have some options and you can go through and select your classroom background. And I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to go with this one because it gives me a lot of floor space and a little tree. And I'm going to hit done. And when you add the background this way, then the students can't manipulate or move the background around on your slide. It kind of like just anchors it to the background of your slide. Now, if you go in, and I've seen some in my group where they don't like the options that are provided there, so they go into just regular Google and now you can tweak, of course, your terms too, and you can put classroom. And I'm going to go to images. And here are some like pre-created images of a background that you could do. Like this one's like, it's kind of got a lot of stuff already created in there, so you don't have to worry about that. Now, if you're going to go in and select it, what I'm suggesting is that you actually go into, and then like you can see from there, once I selected that one, it has some even more options for you with kind of like that Bitmoji feel to them already. So I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to save the image as. Okay, and I'm going to save it. And then I'm going to copy it to my clipboard. And I'm going to paste it. So I'm using hotkeys, but you can right click and hit, control paste. And I'm just going ahead and, doing this on top of the theme I already chose. So I'm making it as big as the actual slide itself. And so then you have kind of like your digital classroom right there. I'll worry about that later. But like I said, the problem with it then is that students can then drag and drop the background if they're not in presenter mode, and that presents its own kind of problems in itself. So that's why I kind of like to use the background version as opposed to the Google search option, but both can work. Okay, so I'm going to delete that and use this one. Okay, so now that you have kind of your space, the next step is to decorate your space. And so we're going to go again, first start with the simple way and go to Insert, Image, Search the Web. Now, if you're taking notes somewhere, this is a key component for finding any items to put in your classroom. You have to type the word transparent first. What this is going to do is it's going to provide you with a vector image that has a clear background, or mostly has, like, most of the images that this will come up with will have that vector image or clear background, so that then you can just kind of like place it in there and it doesn't have any kind of background behind it. So I'm going to first start with a whiteboard, transparent whiteboard. And you can see then it comes up with some options for you. And like, just to kind of note the difference, like, okay, so this one, even though I put transparent, it is not transparent. You can see I can click on that. And it has a background in it. This is not transparent. It's not going to work for me. So it's not like an absolute perfect art when using the transparent search key. So I'm going to go in. You could pick, like, this one would work well. I'm going to use this one. That's the one I used earlier. And I can just drag and actually drop it into my picture. So you can see that this one has that transparent background on it, except for it has these other features. So I'm making it smaller. It has these other things right here that I don't want in my classroom. So how can I fix that? Well, if you double click on the image right there, then it's going to pull up these black border boxes. That allows you to crop the image, and you just crop those things out of it that you don't want. Voila. And then you have your whiteboard. And once you crop it, then you can make it as big as you want. Oh, how it would be to have a wall full of whiteboard. So if you wanted like a wall full of whiteboard, you could have a wall full of whiteboard. Cool thing about Bitmoji classrooms is you have an unlimited budget to do and create and have what you want in your classroom. So the sky is literally the limit. Okay, so you have your whiteboard that you want, and then if you wanted to type on top of that whiteboard so that you can put a message, then you would just create a text box on the top of that whiteboard, and then you can write them a message. And of course, like the standard tweaks, you can go in and you can change your font if you want, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so then we're going to go in, and I'm not going to create as an elaborate classroom as some of the other ones that I've created, but I am going to show you a little bit more stuff. So, okay, I got my search. So I'm just going to leave transparent in there. And so now I want to add a vintage chair because I like vintage things. And so this chair looks pretty cool. It's my style. So I'm going to just drag and drop that chair in. Really don't need it that big. So difference, you could see that a lot of the times I'm just pulling from the corner, and then that will make sure that your image doesn't, the size doesn't get funky and wonky. So a lot of times when I resize, I'll just resize from my corners versus resizing from my ups and downs and sides. Now look, let's say that I really want this chair on this side, but it looks really weird if I'm just like sitting on that chair with my Bitmoji looking in that direction. So I'm going to right click on that, and where it says rotate, I'm going to flip horizontally. And now I've turned my chair in the correct direction. Okay, so once I have my chair, now let's go in and find some other items. So I'm going to go ahead and add a plant, another plant. Now you can see, like, again, some of the options that they have are limited. Not a transparent background. So that's really unfortunate that some of them are limited, especially, oh, look, that's nice. So I'm going to add, and you know what, really, honestly, I like this tree better than that tree. So I'm going to go in and just make this like a huge fiddle fig and put my chair right there. Okay, so here's one of the problems is, like, I want my chair on top of the fiddle fig, but this is going on there. So what you do then, again, right click, and you're going to select order, and I want to bring my chair to the front. And then that's going to put your chair in front of the fiddle fig. Now you can see that I have the fiddle fig is kind of going off the screen, but when the kids enter into the present mode of it, then you'll see they won't see any of that that's going off the page. Now they do see that tree in the background, but it just depends on how much, like, attention to detail you really want to get into. Like, even if you think your students are going to even see that, but I am going to just go ahead and move that tree over here. Then, okay. Sorry, I'm gonna reposition. Okay. So now I've added some plants. Maybe let's go ahead. Let's maybe add our bookshelf. So right here, you can type in bookshelf because obviously we're creating a Bitmoji library, and you can see and add in your bookshelf options right there. So you could just make this one like a long one, and since it's kind of cartoony, it's not really going to matter too much. But I really like hanging bookshelves, and that one creates like really small spaces. So you can change your words around to kind of see what you can pull up. right? And so I like that bookshelf. I'm gonna just size it down. Keep sizing it down. Okay. So there is some level of like tediousness to the whole process. Okay. So once you have a shelf that's like the right size, then you can just hit Control C to copy and Control V to paste. And then you don't have to go through that tedious process of, resizing a shelf again. You can just use that same shelf. And I'm going to have like shelves to the floor. No, I don't like that. Okay, so I'm gonna have 2 shelves in here. Then let's add some decorations in here. So here's one place where like I don't find that the insert image search from web works really well is when you want to add some posters or some wall decorations. So now I'm gonna just go on Google outside of Google Slides. And you can just type in classroom posters and you see how, they have a lot of things from like Teacher Paid Teacher, or Etsy. You can go, like if you already purchased some things from Teacher Paid Teacher, like that's a PDF, you can just go and use those things that are already in your classroom. Like that's a complete possibility. You can, if you like this, or like here's a whole bunch of inspirational posters. Those are kind of neat. So you can find your posters, or if you want to, like, instead of finding like traditional classroom posters, you can go, one of the places that I like is Society6. And they have a bunch of different like art, or you can go inspirational poster, because some of those pictures were kind of saucy. So you can see right here, because I like my classroom actually has some of these posters in here. So you can go in and use this. So if you like this poster, then here I'm just going to copy the image, because I'm not really worried about the image being, I'm going to make it small. So I'm not really concerned about the sizing of it. So I'm going to hit paste, Control V to paste it. All right, and then I'm going to do the same thing that I did as far as I'm double clicking on it till my frame comes up. And then from my frame, I'm going to go ahead and edit that. And then now I have my kind of clean poster that I'm going to size back down. Maybe I want a little poster right here. Now, all of these items that you put in your classroom, like I've seen some where they're making them into Easter eggs, where like students click around and then when they click on things, it leads to things. So you can have like your poster right here. And then if you want to create like a little maybe frame Then you can create a frame on top of it. And so it creates a white box. So obviously I'm going to go in and change my fill color to be transparent. And then I'm going to change my border weight. And then that'll make kind of a nice little picture frame for you. Of course, you can change your color also of your picture frame. Seems to be, I want it to be like a black. Okay. And so then maybe what I'm going to add is I'm going to go in. Now I'm going to go, again, I'm looking for maybe some more posters that I like. Like this one. And now I clicked in it and went all the way into the poster. Really don't want to do that. Sisyphus. Maybe I want to have that. So again, right. I'm going to right click on it, copy the image. Now, some of you may be thinking, okay, well, Society 6, so those posters are for sale and they are, copyrighted material. You're right. They are. But, I'm not really like selling anything here. I'm just decorating my classroom. And if you want to be a good steward, you could also, you could provide some citations for your students of like where you got the stuff. And then, then I don't know, you're kind of then selling stuff too. But if they wanted, you could tell them where they could go to get that poster. Or if you like the posters, you can, go in and buy the poster for your classroom. So maybe I'm going to put this Sisyphus poster on my whiteboard. And I'm going to, again, right click, order, send to the back. Oh, that sent it too much to the back. Order, bring forward. Now I lost my poster. So I'm going to hit Control Z. Control Z is your friend. So again, order. So, okay, send to the back, send it all the way to the back, send it backward is what I meant. Because I don't want my tree to be on top of my poster. Or I could just move my tree. Simple as that. All right. And let's say now maybe I want to add a rug. Okay, so I'm going to go to Insert Image. Clicking too fast. Search the web. Okay, so again, transparent rug. Okay, I'm going to just keep it simple. Resize. All right, so obviously you guys get the gist of, creating your classroom environment and like adding different things into your classroom environment. So we're going to move now to the next step, which is adding your Bitmoji into your classroom. Okay, so adding your Bitmoji is really simple. now at this point. And so you can go to your classroom. Okay, I'll use this classroom that I created earlier. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the Bitmoji extension. And as I click on the Bitmoji extension, it's going to pull up some of my recently used. It's going to pull up some popular ones. You can go right here, down here, and this has, all kinds of different emojis. A lot of them have words in there. But if you keep going, you'll see where you have some that don't have words. If you didn't have any furniture, they have some that already have like the couch right there. So if I wanted to insert, so I can do two ways. A lot of the way that I like to do is just drag and drop. Okay, and so this one already has a couch, so I'm just going to delete that couch. And it has some words on it. I'm going to make it bigger. Drag it, drop it. Okay, so you added your Bitmoji in there. And there's different ways that you can go in and like you can edit your Bitmojis. There's definitely a lot of YouTubes out there if you want to edit this because it's just a picture. So you can save this picture and then edit the picture to take out the words if you like the style of the Bitmoji but don't exactly want the words on there. So it just depends on how complex you want to get into the whole creation process. So you've added your Bitmoji in there. Some kind of cool things that I've also been seeing is where teachers have been, I guess they asked their students to create their own student Bitmoji and send it to them. And then they've like kind of been like popping their students in the classroom. Or maybe I don't know if how they have time for it, but maybe the teacher is creating Bitmojis for their students. And so it is definitely increasing student engagement because their students will come on to see like which student is making an appearance in the presentation that day and like, in surprising different ways, like in shark costumes or whatever. And so the next step then is to go ahead and create our library. Because that's the whole point of this is to try and engage our students in literacy and give them access to books. So now it's a pretty easy process to go in and create your library. So we'll go back to this slide and we'll create our library. So the first thing that you want to do is you're going to go to Google and you're going to search for a book. Okay, so maybe, you're going to look for A Wrinkle in Time. All right, so that was pretty easy. So now I want to find the cover of the book and I'm going to, again, copy the image, go into my classroom. I'm going to Control V to paste my book and resize my book, place it on my shelf. Okay, obviously then I'm seeing that, this bookshelf would definitely need to go down to fit another book. So then maybe I'm going to look for Hatchet. Again, I'm going to just right click, copy image, paste my image in with Control V. Now I like to have my books be the same size, so I'm using that one book as a template. And let's see. Let's look for Outsiders. Okay, so here is where you see where then just pictures of the movie came up. So I'm going to add into my search term book. And then that's going to pull up my book cover. Actually, I like this book cover better. Paste, Control V. Okay, so remember, if you have the background, you just crop it by double clicking on it. That will crop your image. Put it on top of that book so I can size it down to the same size, since I'm neurotic and need things to be equal. Okay, so again, you can put however many books you want to put up onto the bookshelf. And you can do, now we're going to go in and we're going to actually find, okay, where are we linking this to? So now is where I'm going to go to YouTube, and you have some options. So you can link them to a PDF version of the book, or you can link them to a YouTube video of someone reading them the book. And this works wonderfully with little kids too. So I'm going to go ahead and type in as soon as it will let me, The Outsiders audiobook. And so you can see where it pulls up chapters. So if you are maybe going in and reading a specific chapter that week, you can just link that chapter. Or if you're reading the whole thing, then you want to link the kind of the playlist. All right, so that they can access the playlist. So I'm just gonna go into my YouTube, click on share. I'm going to nab this link up. Okay. And then once I nab that link by copying it, I'm going to go in the book and select the book. And from here, I'm going to, went to my other classroom. So again, try right here. I'm going to hit Control K. Control K is to do a link. And so then I'm going to paste that link right there and apply. And now when the student clicks on that book, it's going to go to that YouTube video. The other thing that you could do, again, is if you want them to have access to a PDF, and we know that putting books in PDF form on the web breaks copyright, but we also know that a lot of people out there are doing it. So I'm going to type A Wrinkle in Time, and here is an advanced search. So I'm doing file type :PDF, no spaces in between. This is going to make Google look for just PDF copies of A Wrinkle in Time. So you kind of have to, the first one doesn't always work, but you have to look, that's not the book. But if I click on that one, then I'm seeing that it's pulling up a full 110-page PDF of A Wrinkle in Time. So I'm going to copy that link, go in. Again, I'm going to click on my book. I'm going to hit Control K. I'm going to paste that PDF link, and I'm going to hit apply. Another thing that you could also do is um, if you wanted to, like for instance, on your screen, if you wanted to, put like, for instance, if you wanted to insert a video of a YouTube, just like if you were playing a something on your Promethean for them to see, you could totally just put a video right there and then they can click on that video. So that's one thing that you could do as well. So this is pretty much like what I'm talking about with creating that classroom environment and then giving them access to good quality literature from their cell phones or from their parents' cell phone. Um, so once they then go in, and if you're then in full screen for them to view and they just click on the document, then they can go and click and it will give them access. Some of the things that I find that's really important is to remind the student, like right here, click on the book to find the PDF, or click on the book to read. And so then they know, because you're not really there to communicate, it's kind of giving them that directive of what to do. All right. So that's the 5 steps to creating your Bitmoji library to share with your students. You can, like I said, you can send that video, like the presentation, to your parents. You can insert it into your Moodle classroom. You can insert it into your Google Classroom. There's a lot of different practical ways that you can go in there. If you want, also, a lot of people are just like creating not the clickable classrooms, but just like the banners, and they're adding that to their Google Classroom as a banner to just say hi to their students. I want to thank you guys for watching this tutorial, and I'm hoping that you're all staying safe. If you have any questions or comments, or if you need any help while doing this, please feel free to send me an email at justrushing@gmail.com. And I hope you're all well. Thanks.